The NFL draft is done and over, and I am going to be breaking down each and every team and grading out their draft. So check back every day, because one team I will do every single day, and I'll have it up here on YouTube for you to watch. We'll go over every prospect that they drafted, as well as some key undrafted free agents that they may bring in. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I'll be sure to address them for you. Also, just be aware on my draft grades, no one fails the draft, especially right after it. Even no one in this draft is going to get a D or an F from me, because everyone had a talent. Everyone did something. So if you think the grades are a little bit high, that's just me not going to too much extremes. And maybe in 3 or 4 years, when we look back on this draft, then we can see who really succeeded and who really failed. So sit back, relax, enjoy me as I break down every single team this year. The draft expert, Shane Hallam, shows off his knowledge. Writing mock drafts, prospects from the best college. Breaking down tape, he might develop a man crush. Tearing up guys, taking questions in a rush. Comparisons, learning lessons, Shane saves the day, oy vey. Hulk or Banner, doesn't matter. Listen, cause here's who can play. Today we're going to be breaking down the Cincinnati Bengals draft. And the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round took Jermaine Gresham, tight end out of Oklahoma. This was a pretty good pick in my opinion. Jermaine Gresham's a very good pass-catching tight end, something the Bengals have never had. I know a lot of fans have said, well, we don't really use pass-catching tight ends. Well, we've never really had one. So let's see what happens here. He'll be a great bailout option for Carson Palmer. He's a guy that can catch the ball. After the catch, runs over defenders, does very well of getting open in space and in a zone. So he had a year off for some injury issues. That was what dropped him in the draft, but I think it's a pretty good pick for them. In the second round, they took a shot at Carlos Dunlap, defensive end out of Florida. Carlos Dunlap is a guy with high first-round talent. He's a guy that, if based on talent alone, would be a top 15 pick in this draft. Problem is, there were whole games at times when he just took plays off, when he just stopped playing, and then he really wasn't that effective. So the question here is, last year the Bengals did a very similar move in drafting Michael Johnson out of Georgia Tech. So now they take Carlos Dunlap. These two guys work out, it will look great, and they'll have a great pass rushing tandem. If not, then you got two big busts on your hands. So I thought it was a little risk for a Bengals team that probably didn't need to take the risk, since they're very close to being a top-tier team in the NFL. In the third round, they took Jordan Shipley, wide receiver out of Texas. I thought it was a little bit of a reach. I like Jordan Shipley, but I thought he would have went a little bit lower, because this is a guy with not a lot of upside. Now, I do kind of like the pick for the Bengals, though, because they've taken wide receivers with upside in the past. The Jerome Simpsons, the Andre Caldwells of the world. Whereas Jordan Shipley's going to step in the slot, maybe do similar things that Austin Collie did last year for the Indianapolis Colts. So I like the pick. Also gives them another return threat possibility with his vision, with his good hands. I like Jordan Shipley's fit in the Bengals system. Also in the third round, they had another pick. They took Brandon Ghee out of Wake Forest. Brandon Gee's another risky pick. This is a guy that certain times in games he could stick to defenders, great athleticism, he's very good ball skills, but there are also times when he was overly aggressive. There are times when he got beat by guys he simply should have been able to outperform, and so that's the risk with Brandon Ghee. Is this a guy that's going to come in and do good things, or is this a guy that's going to come in and really not be focused on the NFL? And if he's not focused, Brandon Ghee is going to get burned and burned and burned, but they have a good structure there. Jonathan Joseph with Leon Hall can come in the slot. He's not going to be asked to be a starter, so I like that pick for them as well. In the fourth round, they took Geno Atkins, defensive tackle out of Georgia. Add a little defensive tackle depth behind Demata Pico. Geno Atkins, a very, very strong guy. He came in, and he was dominating people at the Senior Bowl, dominating first-round pick Mike Iupati. So this is a guy that has some upside, but he's had some injury issues in the past. He really, at Georgia, was very inconsistent. That's the name of this draft for the Bengals, inconsistency. And can they get these guys to be consistent? The fourth round, they selected Roddrick Muckelroy out of Texas. Thought it was a little high for Roddrick Muckelroy. He's not going to add much more than depth, not going to do more than be a solid tackle artist for them. So I'm not really sure where he's going to fit in. Maybe a special teamer, which is a little high for a fourth-round pick. Fifth round, they took Otis Hudson, offensive lineman out of Eastern Illinois, a guy that's probably going to move inside. Otis Hudson, probably not known to too many people, used to play for the Minnesota program in college and then had to move to Eastern Illinois. This is a guy that I'm not really a big fan of. I don't know why they took a shot at him. He doesn't really add much. He's not very versatile. His only thing that he gives you is probably he can play guard, maybe play tackle as well, but he's not going to give you athleticism. He's not going to give you the versatility against defensive linemen that he can do a number of different things. He can get beat over and over again by moves. Not a strong competition. I don't think he's going to make the team. The sixth, they picked Dezmon Briscoe, wide receiver out of Kansas. Another risky pick, but it was a good value for Dezmon Briscoe. He's very good hands, but he's not very fast. He's very immature, should not have come out early from college, and we saw him fall because of that. We saw teams are going to pass because this is a guy that's doesn't run great routes. This is a guy that isn't very focused on football, and the question is, after he gets drafted, is he going to be? I don't know if he's going to make the team either. In the seventh round, they took Reggie Stevens, a very underrated player at offensive guard. He's a guy that can move around the line, guy that's pretty athletic. He was one of the shining spots of a very, very poor Iowa State team, so I really like that pick. The question with this Bengals draft is risk versus reward. They took a lot of risks. That's what the Bengals seem to do in drafts. They take risks, and some of them have worked out, and some of them have not. And I think this is a draft that very easily could tip to the did not when all's said and done in a couple years. I don't like Carlos Dunlap. I don't think he's going to be successful. I'm not sure about Brandon Ghee. I'm really unsure about the Otis Hudson pick. I don't know what's going on with that. They got Jordan Shipley. I think he'll be solid. I think Geno Atkins may struggle in that system. So I give him a C+ because I think the Bengals needed to take a little more precaution in their draft picks when all's said and done. Now, I could really be eating crow here in 3 or 4 years because this could be one of the better draft classes in the league when all's said and done when it works out. If it doesn't work out, though, this could set the Bengals franchise back in an AFC North that's always pretty competitive with the Ravens, the Steelers, and the Browns. So I'm going to give him a C+. In terms of undrafted free agents, I'm looking at the list here. No one really stands out to me. Jeff Cottam, tight end out of Tennessee, brother of Brad Cottam, who got drafted a couple years back based on athleticism. Another pretty athletic tight end. May add some value, maybe make the team. But other than that, they got long snapper Mike Wint. This is a guy that was one of the better long snappers in the draft, so if they have a need there, they can maybe fill him in. But past that, I don't really see anyone else that makes the team. Maybe Jeromy Miles, safety out of Massachusetts, but a small school guy. He's really doesn't have the ideal height and athleticism you look for. He's more of a hard worker, so maybe he can work hard and make the team. But past that, don't see too many good UDFAs for them. So C+ for the Bengals. Not really hating on them. I think this is just too risky of a draft for me. All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching. Tomorrow, we're going to break out another AFC North team, the Cleveland Browns.